Showtime. Hello, everyone from the internet. This is Hazelton Fields III. Welcome to Various Fields. We are also here with
Hazelton Fields II.
I'm Lex.
And we are wonderfully rejoined after a long week. Well, a long week for me, but I am just happy to be with my family again. How y'all doing?
Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you, son.
Oh, thank you very much.
son.
And I know in this very long week, we haven't had a chance to talk a lot with one another, but there's one thing that we have joined in doing. Would you mind telling me what that was, Lex?
It's Daredevil Born Again.
Daredevil Born Again.
Charlie
so
Cox has
happy.
returned in his role, right?
Yes.
So good.
It was good.
And honestly, like the first two episodes we did manage to see together.
Yes.
Yes,
I was just going to mention that. I enjoyed that
It was
all the more.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was.
You
We
know?
used to watch it all the time when we were all in the same house. When Daredevil originally came out, we watched, I'm pretty sure, at least the first two seasons pretty consecutively together.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we caught the third one season all together all the time. But we definitely did that. So it was like all the Marvel stuff's very traditional for us. But this was like very much like, we have to watch this one together again. It's a good time.
All right. And I have to say, like, another thing that I'm sure you're already aware that we are all very much nerds, right? But I don't know, I don't know within this family wholeheartedly, do we prefer Daredevil or do we prefer Batman?
Before I think I like Daredevil over Batman /
That was where my vote
character
is.
over Batman, a character over Bruce Wayne. Personally, though, my favorite kind of character arc stuff happens to be Bat Family stuff. So not especially
That's
Batman.
fair. Oh, okay,
but I like
okay.
Nightwing. I like a lot of the Robins. But Daredevil himself, I like a lot.
That's fair.
Wow, that's a tough question and almost unfair. But if I had to choose, I too would go with Daredevil. And I'm going to go back with the Daredevil that I knew from my comic days.
Okay.
Okay, when he was hanging around, because he was kind of like the serious version of Spider-Man of sorts, you know, because I always enjoyed his relationship in the comics with Spider-Man. He was mentor-like, you know, and you know, kindly for the most part, you know, and just I remember my lasting memory is that I always thought the Daredevil comics were so amazing because if anyone's not familiar with the Daredevil comic, he would wear an all-red suit, and what they did amazingly for a young person reading comics was when Daredevil would do acrobatics, obviously we can't see motion, but what they would do is change his red suit to like a pale red color to show you the acrobatic movements he had done prior to seeing the dark red suit where he had landed.
Right,
from
like an after effect.
After effect. So we would see the light pink thing showing what he did do. And I always thought that was amazingly done. I always appreciated it because it felt like, it was like, how do you create movement in a comic? And they, for me, in my imagination, they did that.
And I kind of like the explanation of how his powers always seems to work in the comic book. Like, mind you, he is in fact visionarily impaired, right? So like whenever they talk about like how he's able to sense the room with his radar sense, and then you actually realize that wasn't something that was necessarily made up exclusively for Daredevil. That's actually a sense that can be developed for a lot of martial artists, right? And as well as the idea of him kind of like having an enhanced somatoproprioception, which I thought was very interesting. You're basically feeling the room with like your external sense of just like your touch. You know, touch.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought was very interesting, right? And having that being part of the explanation as well as kind of like an explaining it as part of his character, like how he developed, you know, and they kind of like go into the film expressing that, like it's also part of the cinematography and like how like certain key aspects of the sound enhances and how key aspects of like whatever he picks up on, right, is all part of the narrative, even subtly, right? It's like it's not like the spider sense, which is like oh my gosh, I feel something, right? And you already know Peter Parker is about to jump into action, but you kind of understand which sense is being used to identify a certain, and I love how particularly in this this Born Again series, right? And even in the original series from Marvel, Daredevil, there is just such a focus on what senses are being used, and I love that about the narrative.
Speaking of, do you guys want to talk about so we can maybe, because there's a lot, technically for the show, it's got a lot of episodes. There's 3 episodes out now.
Right.
Do you guys want to talk about highlights or like favorite moments?
Well, what I'd like to do first, because I always like to try to consider those who are from my age group who may not be as familiar with the Daredevil character. So can we do a quick summation? And maybe this may be a little early, but if you're enjoying what we're talking about, please like, share, subscribe,
hit all the buttons. All in sync.
And we oftentimes talk about comics sometimes, but we often like to talk about it in a bigger umbrella than just the comic itself. So I feel that it might be good for those who may not be, because a lot of people are familiar with, Spider-Man, this and the other.
Yeah.
But Daredevil is now, we're beginning to talk a little bit on the fringes. For those who are not.
Yeah, Daredevil, I think since the Netflix one, he's become more popularized.
Yeah, that's fair.
But definitely he's not the most popular, because, Spider-Man's up there, Wolverine's.
Right.
Man, not even Cyclops as much. But
right. Because with Daredevil, we start talking about regional superheroes, because Marvel Comics was very good about placing their heroes in regions. So I'm going to ask one of you guys to begin the process of breaking down who is Daredevil, and quickly.
No, you just had an idea. Just hit the table.
No, I just want to hit the table because I was just thinking, how big is Hell's Kitchen? But as I'm doing that, I can also talk about Daredevil, whose real name is Matt Murdock, son of a boxer. Do you remember the boxer's name? Fred?
I can't remember.
Mr. Murdock.
Mr. Murdock is my father.
Son of Mr. Murdock.
Right.
Who was a honestly great boxer for the time, got caught up in mafia, unsavory gangsta business, and had to now perform falls and flails for them so everyone can win their bets. So
alliteration.
So on one crucial night, he was supposed to take a fall for. I won't get into it because I think in stories they actually get really
right.
For a very specific member of this gang, but because he knew his son was watching. And he said, Matt Murdock's never give up, that kind of vibe. He actually didn't want to take the fall that time.
Right.
Ended up winning the fight as he always could. But unfortunately, at the end, they try to come up. They shoot him. Then you get kind of classic Batman. Oh, no, parents.
Right.
That's how it works.
Yeah, that's true.
And then... Trey, you want to take it from there? Actually, no, he's blind first. Right?
Yeah, okay. So I'm happy that you brought that up because, again, he was already in the business, and I found his name was Jack Murdock.
Jack
Murdock. Yeah.
So he was already in the business of taking these bribed wins or bribed losses, usually taking the fall more often than not, just so, whoever is making money off of him can make a profit, right? But after his son got blinded, all right. And he realized, mind you, he took his son over to the boxing ring because he did, in fact, have a passion for boxing, but he knew that he was just in irreparable business. All right. But nevertheless, because his son was listening to him on the radio during that time, and he was kind of the constant reason for his inspiration to keep on going. Right. And I think Matt probably said that to his father even after being blinded. You're the reason why, you're my hero, Dad. You know what I mean? And so you hear Matt listening to his father in the fight, and his father knows that his son is listening to him take this loss or take this win. And he's like, no, not for my son. I'm going to fight, prove that I can go all out, just like my son's going all out in the midst of his blindness. And then after the fight, he gets shot. But it's a wonderful, inspiring story. It's how far you would go to inspire the next after you. In which case, after his father dies, he gets picked up by Sticks. I mean, not a guy named Sticks.
There's another gentleman by the name of Sticks who, for whatever reason, was kind of like a martial artist in the area, but not really. But he was able to use his blindness and teach young Matt Murdock how to use all of his senses to become the Daredevil eventually. So, and of course, in the Marvel comics, I always chuckle at how people get their powers in Marvel, because it's always these chemicals that this mixture thereof somehow or another causes these things. It's just the timing, the perfect fall, the perfect, perfect set of circumstances. at that one moment for that one person whose DNA might match with it or whatever causes the superpowers to come.
Yeah.
Apparently, I need to get way more biochemical accidents.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
It's like, when we find the next chemical vat to jump into or something like that.
So basically now we're at the point where we now have a Daredevil who actually has a Christian background. For those, he has a Catholic, I believe, primarily.
Yes.
And, and so he also deals with his spirituality sometimes in reference to what he does. They bring that out pretty much in the movie a lot in the program.
Series.
But they also did tap on it in the comics, as I remember. But so he swings with his the billy clubs. He
has like billy clubs because he's like 2 billy clubs in his equipment, and then like that also is like he uses as like a walking stick.
Right.
And then it can convert into billy clubs.
It's a tricky walking stick. So anyway, that's where we are. Daredevil swings upon things.
He's also a lawyer.
He's also a lawyer.
Really good lawyer.
Right. And and he operates within Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, which is 538 acres.
Really? 538. And that's one thing that was always charming as a young guy to read comics that were based in New York. And they would say things like, Peter, I lived in Queens, and Peter Parker lived in Queens. And it was like, oh, wow, that's the street. I know that street. And it was like, oh, cool. It was kind of cool.
A small fun fact that we used to do, if we did it in an older game that was Spider-Man 2 for PS2, and now it's just a new Spider-Man game that comes out, and it's supposed to be a pretty realistic version of Manhattan or Queens or the whole New York area. So you can, in that area, you can swing to Queens while you're playing the game. So something I always used to do in that game is try to find Nana's house.
And can you do that?
You can find like what the game represents to be that area.
Yeah, but it's not like
it's not one for one.
It's not all.
But I always try to get as close as I could. But you could find like what was supposed to be the representative area of that area.
Oh my God! I just had a thought. What if Spider-Man ran into my mother, at a certain time, and my mother was a seamstress. Baby, your suit too tight. You need to let it out. So what you need to do is just change that right there, because you got in your crotch region, you just showing too much, baby.
Oh my goodness! Nana being the unspoken tutor of how to seam a suit so well.
Yeah, right.
That's so funny.
See Spider-Man with a bag here.
You're like, this is how you become a superhero.
But anyway, I apologize for that, ladies. That don't even look like a spider, baby. That look like a big dot with little check marks on the side. All right, anyway.
Nana in the montage is hilarious.
Spider suit. I
don't know.
Okay, all right.
So I guess moving on a little bit with the series so far, we're now in episode 3, and we're doing our best to avoid some spoilers, right? I mean, we can talk about however far you guys are comfortable, but I don't want to give out the full episode now. Particularly, we only have like a few minutes left anyway.
Absolutely.
But I know that we are currently expecting to interact with the Kingpin. He was also very much in the trailer. We were talking about another not as well-known character, the White Tiger, who was also in the series, as well as the return of the Punisher as well. Right? I haven't heard much about. There was a showing of Elektra in the first iteration, the 3 series from Marvel back in 2016, but I don't know much about her return.
I haven't heard anything about her in this upcoming series or this upcoming episode, so I'm not sure.
Right. So, those are the characters that are at play at this moment, right? So, Kingpin, White Tiger, right, and the Punisher are definitely making a comeback in the series, right? I would like to know more about White Tiger personally, and I guess I can learn more about them over time. But I think we were more used to the iteration that was shown in the animated series. I think it was Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man. But everyone knows the Punisher.
Whatchamacallit? This actually reminds me of one of the things. Since we're not doing spoilers, I will say I want to talk about things. I guess maybe favorite moments or favorite aspects of this Netflix into Disney series that they're doing well without getting into spoilers. Because something that I think Marvel has always done very well, and obviously Netflix's series, when they were adapting Marvel stuff, but they weren't under the MCU, also did this well. But something I think they're even doing better now is I love the attention to detail to characters, what they do and how they expand on it. In fact, this is a little moment for me because there's some people that do reviews, and obviously everyone has their own opinion. But some people I heard actually very much didn't like the first episode of Born Again.
Really?
Now apparently some people didn't like some of the CGI stuff that they saw because the CGI was like one of the things that Netflix's Daredevil is known for is those very long one-shot action scene hallway scenes.
Yeah.
And in the Born Again series, the one that we see, there's an action scene that is used to mimic a one shot, but they use some editing where it's like they have clearly done. It's not one shot; there are takes in between.
Right.
But they use some fancy editing. Some people do that, and some people are saying it's like CGI, whatever the case is. I personally don't care too much about that because I still think it was very, very, very well done.
Right.
And with a bigger budget, they can do a couple things that Netflix didn't do, which was some of my favorite attention to detail stuff, which is. I'm not sure how much we're avoiding spoilers, but this will be harder to do. The first fight scene in the first episode, shows how well Matt Murdock can use his hearing, all his skills and all his abilities, but also in relation to a fight. And who he was fighting also shows how crazy that individual is, and also how accurate he is. But they showed it in small moments, not just like, hi, my name is blank and I'm accurate, so I'm going to throw it. Like, they do some small ricochet shots, they do some small catching things. You'll see him like listen to something in particular and go back and I'm like, I think that's something that Marvel has always done well, a lot of showing, not telling.
Right.
Which to me, that's my favorite aspect, because it's not just like, because technically Captain America can fight just as well as Daredevil. He has the potential to, but he fights completely differently. So to me, it's cool to be like, all right, this is why he's a good fighter, and this is how he's a good fighter, and this is the thing that he does that's different than Captain America, or even different than Black Panther. Black Panther and Daredevil could also fight very similarly, but they're taught completely different things. So showing those small moments of like, this is how he does it without communicating it, but just showing and being like, hey, I think that's really cool.
Right.
I also like the subtext with Daredevil that speaks to people who have what people call disabilities. And I love the idea that Daredevil is one of the most formidable heroes in the comic world in reference to his ability to fight. And but he is indeed blind and utilizing the senses, which have been enhanced. Which I like that, because in that scene that you spoke of, the actor has to do a lot of things. So in other words, not only does he have to, I guess, do some physicality, but he also has to remember that he's doing this as a person that is blind, as a blind person. So therefore, he has to stop, listen, look. I mean, with his radar, and I think that was pretty impressive. It was well done because it made me believe that could be done.
I have a small fun fact, but I'll throw it to you. So I actually have a friend of mine who legitimately thought Charlie Cox was blind because of how good of an actor.
And he's done very good.
They were actually convinced because they saw him in another show. I was like, wow, he's really good at acting like he could see people. I'm like, oh wow, how did he learn to do that? It's like, no, he's just really good at. He does really good at communicating. Really good actor.
Absolutely.
Right, and I love the fact, going back to again, still talking about that. I guess tight corners fighting scene, because like I think everyone's now aware, right? That is very much iconic to the Marvel Daredevils series, right? They've tried another series before, right? But I think just because of how well it works for him, I think they just kept it
it's like
going,
a branding thing,
right? Exactly, and I think there is a reason why they put it out there first. Like I'm sure we're going to find other scenes like it down the line, right? But I'm happy that they kind of like pushed it to the forefront, because now we can have the conversation of the rest of the series kind of go on, not so much uninterrupted, but with this anticipatory understanding of like it may come again later, but we already got it out the way.
I enjoyed it so much because there's a scene that's not even fighting, but like him running across the rooftops on the first episode, and you actually didn't see that too much in the Netflix series.
Right. He's very much embracing the full Daredevil.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite shots, and I don't think this is because it's just a shot, but like in Netflix's original series, you see him like on rooftops and see him running, but usually do like fast cuts and things like that to simulate. But with the use of CGI and some other things, it very much looks like it does in the comics. Him jumping from place to place, swinging around, which you didn't get to see in the Netflix thing.
Right.
And there's a specific shot where he stands up and you see like the church behind him.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, that feels so comic.
Right. Yeah. That was
so good. I loved the first episode.
I thought it was
communicated well.
Well, also another thing that Marvel does very well, I think, they sometimes find that perfect actor to fill the role of a thing. And I think my first favorite actor to fill a role is Tony Stark, done by Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. I believe Robert Downey Jr. actually is the epitome of Tony Stark. He is that. He embraces that. However, in this show, I'm going to have trouble with the gentleman's name, but but we've seen him in other things. Person. Vincent D'Onofrio.
Oh, Vincent D'Onofrio.
The Kingpin.
Playing the Kingpin. Magnificent.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the acting in and of itself, without the action, because in this thing, Kingpin doesn't
about 5 minutes.
We got about 10 minutes. The Kingpin doesn't actually do a lot of action, but his acting is so strong that it's almost action by itself.
I'll throw one in there, and this is weird that like our main character, because I think Charlie Cox does an amazing job, but also I think someone who also just screams as an amazing pick is John Bernthal, who plays the Punisher, Bernthal, something like that. I think he also is apt because he used to play in The Walking Dead. And he was kind of like the more aggro, angry. So I think they picked the right cast. But just to double down on I think the one thing that's always cool of MCU Marvel at large is that because it's Marvel itself this time, they're very good at casting. When they find that right person, it feels right.
Right, and there's no question that they're also very good at timing, too, with the whole conversation about Kingpin running for mayor. Right, there's a whole lot of conversation about the political scope, and then not just in that series, but in real life, too. And they did a wonderful job.
That's what the comics did, too. That's what the comics did, too. It's weird. I don't want to get super in because we only have a couple minutes, but it's weird for anybody who I think in the comics or even in the MCU or whatever they watch, like, oh, why are they making my stuff political? This is too woke. I'm like, Stan Lee, since like this has always been this way. It's always been reflective of the times, and they do a good job. And I'm glad to at least believe to know what side Marvel's on.
It's amazing. It's amazing when you see on display a felon who is really a criminal in his activity actually take the reins and heads for power and then leads people, and then people actually believe in him and believe his words.
Right, and
also that happens in the comics. Thank you.
Right, thank you for that. That was very good. That was very good.
Okay, there you go. Thank you very much.
It's like the whole conversation that we're kind of like going into, particularly in episode 3, is like, how do you react to a person in power like that, right? And like, what's the public's response? Like, how do we do the song and dance in spite of these two superpowers, one literal and one, I guess, figurative, a seat of power, right? How do we, as a people, stand? Where do we fall on our side? Do we believe in taking justice in our own hands, or do we use the law to serve our own justice? If that makes any sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, we got a couple more minutes left. Why don't we just close it out? I know this, we thank you all for coming here to Various Fields once again. We thank you for increasing our subscribers. We thank you for also commenting, and we ask you to just continue to do that. We're going to be coming up soon on 500 subscribers, but we ask you to continue to engage, and that's going to help us get to our goals sooner. Guys, close out, and we'll say our goodbyes.
Daredevil's great. Just because you can't see doesn't mean that you cannot stand for truth that is unseen. And that's all I really have right now.
Special episode coming out soon. D. Colin, the poet,
on
our hour-long episode. We're so very excited.
Stay tuned. Give him a hand clap for that.
But we'll be seeing that every episode. Look forward to that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here at Various Fields. Boys, as always, I love you to death. Everything. You guys are wonderful. Nels, we thank you for everything. And we will see you all next time on Various Fields. Thank you for joining us.
All right. Bye.